All right, guys, let me break down a mathematical equation for you that is basically scientific, okay? It goes like this. Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz on August 5th in boxing out of Dallas equals Francis Ngannou unemployed. Do you guys see that? Each day that's going by, it's getting weirder and weirder. It's not getting more and more exciting. It's getting weirder and weirder. We have very strong belief. It was even supported with an organic family photo. I want to say it was Thanksgiving, but there was like this family video of Francis and company, his aunts and uncles and grandmother and his family. And one of them was wearing a PFL shirt. So then this was like a conspiracy theory, and Errol asked him about it. And he said, man, I actually don't even know where she got the shirt, and no, that was not giving us a message. Fair enough. But I'm just sharing with you. We do know, based on what Francis has told us, that he wants an opportunity. He doesn't have to have this guarantee. He wants an opportunity, much like the boxing model. Or what you guys are told and believe is the boxing model, where you've got this pay-per-view and you got this great participation. Okay, fine, fair enough. But that would just show us that the PFL is a very likely suitor, because the PFL made an announcement in conjunction with Jake Paul that they were going to make an investment into the pay-per-view space. Now rumors started to get very strong about Jake and Francis teaming up. Not fighting each other, just teaming up, fighting on the same card. Jake wants to make money. He thinks Francis can bring us some attention. Francis would like to make money. He thinks that Jake can bring us some attention. This is the kind of gamble that they're willing to take, and they're going to go and do this together. This was a story. It's a very believable one, by the way. Now, at the same time that all this was going on, there was still a possibility of Tyson Fury versus Francis. Somewhere in there, Deontay Wilder pops his little cowardly head up. I heard Deontay's looking for me. He doesn't like that I called him a coward. So now I'm not going to stop. Come find me, Deontay. Pops his little cowardly head up, says that he's a free agent, making believe that he and Francis are going to go do some business together. Now, I've tried to tell you guys, a free agent is not a good place to be. That's a man without a country. Other promoters don't look at you and think that's great that you worked out a contract or you didn't re-sign with one of their fellow competitors. They look at you as somebody they can't trust. I'm just sharing this with you. Those guys don't like it, but I'm sharing with you one of the holdups. You don't want to work with any free agent. No intelligent promoter, and there's not a lot of intelligent one out there. That's the good news for you, but no intelligent promoter is going to go work with two free agents. You're going to wonder, why are you free? Where is your loyalty? Now, hold that thought, because Tyson Fury looks to be going in any direction other than with Francis. So it looks like that's dried up, and that was only a slight possibility anyway, right? They were going to go make up a game and have a sport, but they had this whole thing, and they did have each other, and as long as they teamed up, they had something. But whatever the friendship or whatever the loyalty was, apparently it wasn't felt very strong, because Tyson has gone in a totally different direction. No promoter, and they were all offered it, Francis and Fury and Wilder. No promoter touched that. That didn't get any type of headlines whatsoever. Okay, fine. Not picking on somebody here. I'm just laying this out for you because we still have Jake Paul. So Jake Paul announcing that he's going to box Nate Diaz takes whatever MMA plans Jake has, and it kicks them in a best case scenario to the end of 2023. That is a light year away for Francis, who used to be champion and is on the injury list. There's no athlete anywhere whose value goes up when their only commodity they have themselves is injured. But it's a big deal. You got to come back. You got to show the scouts. You got to show the fans. You got to show the world, I'm okay. I'm healed. I'm better. I'm bionic. So you've got this weird process going on where time is against you now. Dave Feldman came out and talked about this. Dave Feldman over at Bare Knuckles said, look, we called and talked to Francis. He was very candid. He said it's unrealistic. The money he's asking for is unrealistic. We're out. Dana is so frustrated that he says there's not an open door over here. All the offers we've made are gone. We're not doing business with the guy. Now, these things can be worked out. But I'm sharing for you as the boxing and the game and whatever those two were going to do, whatever they were going to do. And I don't feel good for Francis here, right? Somewhere Tyson must have felt, I don't have a friend and a partner here. Something got weird. Because they did bring Francis over. They did get him into the ring. They did bring him out in front of 93,000 live in a worldwide audience and say that they were going to do something. That we don't even hear those talks anymore. So when you hear that Jake and Nate are going to box, and by the way, isn't it a little bit disappointing? The Floyd Mayweather approach of an announcement competition 5 weeks. No boxers do that. That was a Floyd approach. I've got to give him the credit for that. But even when it was Floyd and Manny, they announced it 5.5 weeks before they were going to get in the ring. They were already deep into training camp before they let us, the audience, know. And that was fun, right? You guys might remember back at February. Jake Paul announced he was going to box Tommy Fury. Somewhere in February, he announced that. They did the fight in February. Somewhere within the same month, they made the announcement and they did the fight. That was fun, right? We liked that. And now it's in August. There's nothing to talk about at this point. That is forever away. I'm not bagging. I'm sharing with you. If you're wondering why I'm not talking about, there's nothing to talk about. It's forever away. The only thing that you have by this announcement being made is that Jake Paul is not going to the PFL. He is not going in MMA. He is not activating the pay-per-view arm. And the Jake Paul Francis team doesn't exist. And you start to look around. What are we doing here? What are we doing and who do we plan to do it with? It's an interesting spot. Do you guys know? Because you got to really understand this, right? It was a surprise to me to find out that Deontay Wilder had that little stroke. I mean, that surprised me. He became a free agent. Go get some cameras and a network and a partner. Like, this isn't rocket science. But he didn't know how to do any of those things. So he just was like, hey, I'm available if you want to tag me in. But it also surprised me with Tyson Fury. This guy that's been around, this second-generation guy. His pops knows people. They can't do anything unless somebody with a checkbook comes in and steers them in a direction. That just surprised me. I'm not bagging on that. I'm just telling you, there's different ways to do things. Do you think that there's a promoter out there that went and grabbed Jake Paul and Nate Diaz? They had the opportunity to get Francis versus Deontay. According to Francis and Deontay, they had the opportunity, but they passed on that and they went over here. Does that surprise you? Do you think that Jake and Nate is a bigger fight? Do you think they made the right move? Okay, well, now let me explain for you. That didn't happen. Jake Paul went and rented a venue, found an opponent, put some money away, got a date, and eventually is going to be putting a production crew together. This isn't rocket science. You got to have some money or you got to have some connections, but I'm talking about world champions here. I'm talking about Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. They don't have the money and the connections to do it? No, apparently not. No. They're going to sit there until somebody calls on them. And MVP is in a very interesting position. Like, I really do think the idea of Paul and Francis on the same card, like, I see something there. I don't know what that is, but I feel as though there's something there. A great talk was Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz versus Logan and Jake on the same night. Like, I don't fully know what you do with that, but there's something there. Can we agree to that terminology? But I can't imagine that Francis got his hat in his hand or he's called Deontay up and they're going to jump on the horn and go to MVP and ask to be a co-main event. Like, I don't think that these things are going to happen. I'm not sure that those two know how this works. They've never had to do it. It's never been that way. They've had a coach. They got a driver. The coach tells them, you eat this, you drink that, you come here this time, hit this bag, jump this rope. It seems to be one of these things, but the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. You've got world champions that are free agents, whatever that means. You got these world champions. They're unemployed. You have a guy new to the boxing world, been greatly resisted by the boxers. We're going to take on another guy that didn't even have a boxing license, and he's never done it before, and they're apparently going to go play Cowboy Stadium, and that sounds right to me. I think it's going to be a big deal. It's a different approach. It's a different mindset. But if you heard that it's going to be Jake versus Nate and you got in, oh, there's a southpaw here and he's going to be training over here. And if you got into any of that stuff, then you missed the real story. And the story is Jake, PFL, MMA, and a possibility of Francis Ngannou no longer apparently exists.